To Be Magnetic, we refined a process for a specific reason because it's rapid and it works when you really do it correctly.
It's actually a true spiritual, emotional, physical transformation when you're manifesting.
You have to go deep first. It's not effective until the deeper work is done.
From To Be Magnetic, this is the Expanded Podcast with your host, Lacy Phillips.
And your host, Jessica Gill.
As the leading destination for neural manifestation, we dispel the woo-woo in order to help you create real, tangible results based on neuroplasticity, psychology, epigenetics, and energetics. Our goal is to normalize the practice of manifestation and empower you to get into the driver's seat of your life in order to manifest the experiences, relationships, and things that most align with your authenticity. And by pressing play, the process begins.
Welcome back, everyone, to another episode of Expanded. Jessica here. I am so excited for this episode today. So the concept of this episode really initiated with so many people sending us different manifestation hacks they were seeing on TikTok and YouTube. And they're like, does this work? Should I add this to my practice? Et cetera, et cetera. And so we wanted to break down what some of those themes are, what's the root of it, and what actually is going to shift your manifestation process the fastest, according to the neuroscience that we have studied and looked into, and also just the practice through TBM that we've seen happen so rapidly for so many members. I also think this episode is extremely powerful if you've been feeling a little stagnant or unclear in your process. I know yesterday I was trying to talk to a team member of like what part of the manifestation phase that I'm in. It's not quite a magic dark. I guess I'm kind of in a next level. And I went in to do our monthly check-in DI to really integrate like, wait, I know a lot of things are happening, but where am I at in my own manifestation process? And this episode helped clarify and drop in little bits of clarity in so many nuanced ways of, oh, right, I'm actually missing a little bit of expansion, or, oh, I think I might need to unblock here, or that's why I'm being called to take that aligned action. So if you are in the TBM work, if you've been working this process, if you're looking for that different lens and perspective to help drop in new clarity around your unique process, this episode is a great one to listen to. Also in the episode, we mentioned working with ChatGPT to find expanders. Now, I just want to throw this disclaimer out there that ChatGPT is a new tech. There are a lot of unknowns, the security, the privacy, where the information goes, where it's being stored, what people are going to do with it. We don't know. The energy expenditure it takes to process one sequence in there is unknown. So I just want to let that awareness be out there and to utilize it at your own discretion. If you feel called to use it, how you feel called to use it. I certainly don't want to have to recommend everyone has to go there in order to find expanders. You can absolutely find them in real life. You can find them in your communities with that mindset of openness. But if you do feel called to utilize an AI tool, just know that there are other implications and just do what feels most aligned and authentic for you. And stay tuned after the episode for a little DI protocol based off of the things that we've talked about in today's episode.
And now, a word from our partners.
One of my authentic code words is home. And part of that pillar of my authentic code is home within self, with wellness, self-care, nourishment, grounding, soothing. And we know that wellness is more than just our physical health. It's that deep alignment with our mind, body, and spirit. But in today's world, we're constantly bombarded with stress, environmental toxins, modern disruptions, connection to our phone that's throwing us all out of whack. And it really disconnects us from our innate wisdom and healing potential. Armor Colostrum is the body's original blueprint for health, packed with over 400 bioactive nutrients that restore cellular integrity deep within, helping to defend against everyday threats, strengthen your immunity, fortify your gut, and elevate your focus. And it works by optimizing your whole body microbiome. It strengthens your immune barriers around your mouth, sinuses, lungs, gut, urinary, and reproductive tract to guard against unwelcome particles and strengthen that barrier so you're not taking in as many toxins. And same for your gut health. When we think about probiotics, prebiotics, all the things that we need to have in the gut, we also need to be checking if our gut lining is strong, if that barrier is protecting outside things from coming in and protecting that microbiome so we can have the healthiest gut possible. Armor colostrum is a bioactive whole food. They source grass-fed, non-GMO, certified glyphosate-free, and sourced sustainably from family-owned dairy farms in the U.S. Armor only collects the overflow colostrum, the surplus remaining after the calves are fully fed to receive all of their vital nutrients that they need. Typically, the surplus is discarded as industry waste, and instead, Armor upcycles it to ensure the calves' needs come first and no colostrum goes to waste. This one whole food has 400 plus bioactive nutrients and over thousands of benefits for the body. And we have a special offer to our audience. Receive 15% off your first order by going to tryarmra.com/TBM or enter TBM to get 15% off your first order. Again, that's tryarmra.com/TBM or check out the link in the show notes.
All right, on to the episode.
Okay, let's dive in today. What people get wrong about manifesting and what actually works. This was inspired by so many people on the team sending different videos from manifestation TikTok, from YouTube of like, does this hack work? What is this at the root? What is lucky girl syndrome? Should I be visualizing like this? And we're like, let's break it down. What's really going on here and what actually works? This is a great episode to send to your friends who are skeptical or don't know about TBM, why TBM is different. So yeah, let's dive in. So the first one that comes up a lot is the lucky girl syndrome. This really is like old school think positive. Just like assume you're lucky, pretend that you're lucky, just think that you're lucky and everything will go your way. And on some level, I can see how that might yield some magnetism. That could yield some short-term success or momentary success. But in terms of like actually shifting your life, actually transforming the deep, meaningful, authentic things that you want in your life, that alone will not help you manifest. So Lacy, how do you see it through the manifestation lens here?
Well, it's interesting because I think other aspects of the lucky girl syndrome can be like, you're pretty, you're X, Y, and Z, like all the privileges, right? But it's also really interesting too. I even remember we recorded when we were kind of doing that little series for a minute, we recorded with one of our team members' friends, who's one of the most stunning, beautiful women. She's an actress. She's not getting the things she wants at all in relationship or career. And even when I reflect back on my own story in my 20s, yeah, the lucky girl syndrome thing didn't apply. So there has to be this deeper level of why someone's manifesting and getting back to that, like, think you're lucky, think the car spot's going to be there waiting for you. That stuff does happen. And I also will be the first to be like, affirmations are great. We've considered putting affirmations in, but the one thing they don't lend you, number one, is they take a gazillion times longer for you to create a new neural pathway in ratio to what we've created within our deep imaginings, our proprietary hypnosis, which works so much more rapidly. And that's what we're really here for. When we created this brand, it was all about results. I had been doing a lot of the superstitions that people are aware of out there for over 10 to 12 years, all of them. I mean, I was a manifestation closet nutcase because my story coming from very little, being an actress and really wanting to manifest this life, I was doing it all. You know, I was really impatient and wanting those things. So I totally understand people gravitating to those, what they think are going to be the quick fixes. Like I think of my mom, she's such an as seen on TV type of like consumer. Same thing in spirituality. She just wants the spell and her life doesn't truly change. It really doesn't, because you have to actually do a little bit of changing your subconscious brain, your loops, in order to see a deeper change reflected in your life. And so affirmations are awesome. They just take a really fucking long time to get what you want. And so like Jessica's saying, as I'm starting to see these trends come out, and we'll start to cover them, the like orgasm one, I practice magic. There's a lot of truth in sex magic. There really is, but it's not going to be precise and it's not going to be fast like this manifestation method. Coming from a witch who practices magic and knows about all of these things, there's a reason why I put these steps of TBM out into the world. And as a brand, we've more deeply refined over and over and over again, because our greatest result is creating community around a community, that was sort of siloed. If you did manifestation, you might have had a couple of girlfriends that were sort of into it. At To Be Magnetic, we have a vast community of people who are doing this work and seeing results. If you don't believe me, go to our thousands of testimonies on our website page. Just start there, because the thing we're going to talk about, expansion, which plays up a third of the reason why people manifest. When you're reading those testimonies, you're automatically expanding and believing that it's possible for you. So a lot of the things we're going to talk about today have truth in them. They just take longer. At To Be Magnetic, we refined a process that's backed by science, neuroscience and psychology by Dr. Tara Swart, for a specific reason, because it's rapid and it works when you really do it correctly.
I was noticing too, just looking into the science end of things, research suggests that theta state learning, which is the binaural beats and the level that we get into in our deep imaginings, are 200 to 500 times more effective at rewiring limiting beliefs compared to conscious affirmations or willpower-based approaches. And on top of that, we also have self-hypnosis techniques, EMDR, somatic, all of the things in there informed. But hypnosis is also 3 to 5 times faster compared to other techniques as well. So you're getting hit from so many different angles with the DIs that are speeding up the process. It's cutting whatever you're doing in that, like, I'll just pretend I'll be lucky today, and I'm just going to think about that every day on my morning walk. Why not utilize a tool that's like going to get you in the brain state, get you open to the experience and actually moving through the things you need to move through to have that rapid change?
Agreed. It's literally a math equation to make it fast for people. As somebody who did a lot of that stuff for a long time, didn't see the results. We're result driven.
Janelle, from your perspective, when it comes to just thinking positive or just assuming I'm just lucky, what is it actually battling against if we don't allow ourselves to have a bad day or to have a fearful thought about ourselves or think like, gosh, I'm feeling like shit today? You know what I mean? Like, why is it actually beneficial to let those emotions come up?
So when I think of just giving a positive affirmation, to me, it's not embodied. It only just stays in the head. And depending on what the affirmation is, if someone doesn't have a lot of trauma belief behind it, they could say, oh, I'm good enough. That could be it. That could actually just be like, okay, they just got a little boost. But if there is a lot more narratives connected to different traumas and attachment wounds and all of that stuff, that's just going to bounce right off. I mean, I can think of so many people that for years, they just told themselves the truth, trying to tell themselves the truth, but it just doesn't connect from head to heart to soul to body. And so that's why these DIs are so powerful. That's why EMDR is so powerful. That's why somatic experiencing powerful, because it's not just staying in your head. It has to somatically integrate. If you think of somebody that has a really, really, really messed up gut, they could have all of the organic, all of the whatever beautiful supplements or nutrition, and their body does not absorb it. But if somebody has a really healthy gut, they're going to get the nutrients out of it pretty quickly. So you have to go deep first and clear all of that stuff out before you can actually be like, oh yeah, that positive affirmation landed really quickly. It's not effective until the deeper work is done.
I think that's a really good analogy.
Yeah, 1,000%. If you have this narrative that you've looked for thousands or millions pieces of evidence throughout your life that this is your story, this always happens, blah, blah, blah. When you go in there and you're like, okay, I'm just going to tell myself the opposite, you're not going to believe it. And until you address the part of you that has attached to that story, you're not really ever going to believe it. You almost have to surface the part of you that picked that up and kind of work with that. That's why I love the inner child DI for that. That's why I love the driver's seat DI for that, because those are tools where you're communicating with that part of you. Even if some part of you does believe the positive affirmation, if it doesn't stick somatically or it's not shifting your reality, then you are not going to embody that. That is not going to actually shift your reality. You're not subconsciously believing that, because that one part is taking the driver's seat and being like, but what about this, and this? Look at all this other evidence. And it's really attuning to and healing that part before you can even start to visualize your dream life, your positive affirmations, all of these things too.
Right.
Okay. Number 2, the vision board. I love Pinterest. I've got to say, I'm a big Pinterest girly. Especially when it comes to home decor, not so much when it comes to like life manifestation things, but when it comes to home decor, I love looking at everything together, and then I wind up manifesting something kind of close to it. However, when we talk about creating your manifestation list or what those elements are, why is the vision board alone not the tool? If we make it our phone background, if we stare at it every day, if we look at the image across of our room, why is that alone not the best technique?
Like you, I'm a design freak. What would I do without Pinterest? I love Pinterest. I live on Pinterest. Whenever I'm taking breaks on all other forms of social media, then I find myself like on Pinterest to get that dopamine hit. I love Pinterest. I love curating. I did just make a little video about this recently where it's like, if I had to make a choice, I would use ChatGPT over a vision board 10,000 times over, because just how we know with the subconscious mind, Dr. Tara Swart, again, she backed this by neuroscience, that your subconscious has to see to believe that something's possible. So you can curate all day long and look at it all day long. And again, like the affirmation, over time, those things will come in your life. I can look back at my vision boards that I had 12 years ago to 19 years ago. I have all of those things. However, I wouldn't have gotten them if my subconscious didn't see to believe that they were possible. So curate all you want. Yes, like visualize what you want. Of course, that's awesome. But to really get it, why I would use something like ChatGPT over it any day, especially if I was in a really remote area, because I can go into ChatGPT based on something I'm manifesting, let's say a partner, whatever, the type of relationship. ChatGPT, show me 10 different relationships of X, Y, and Z and good communication, and they live here and do this and da. And then you get to go and look at these people's lives and go, oh my gosh, yeah, I do identify with this. Because the real sweet spot in expanding, like in our process of manifestation, expanders see to believe that it's possible and show your subconscious. If your subconscious has never seen to believe that it's possible, there will be no space for that manifestation to come into your life. It'll just be a beautiful picture that you're looking at for the rest of your life until it comes. You know, I'm sure we all in our lives have great examples of this. Again, I think back to my mom, who has desired and dreamed of many things. She was the one who would get all the magazines, and she would have the stacks of magazines, and she's never had those things that she desired because she didn't show her subconscious mind and see to believe that it was possible through real examples in the world that she identified with. So people or things that she identified with that had embodied or were successful in what she wants, and her subconscious, all of that old programming and those traumas and blocks we picked up in our life of things that told us we weren't good enough or we couldn't have them, when we can show our subconscious enough that they exist and people just like us have those things, our subconscious goes, oh, then I can have that too. Bam, you just expanded. Bam, you just created space for that manifestation to land. So curate all you want. That is my favorite pastime is curation. However, if you really want to manifest what you want, do use these other methods. Go find expanders. If you're in a rural area, I love ChatGPT. Be mindful. Like, I see the repercussions it's taking on the environment. You know, there's a lot of responsibility that has to come with AI in many layered ways. However, I would do that over a vision board any day if I wanted to be effective in manifesting.
I love Pinterest too. I'm so visual. And you could use it as inspiration and maybe even to help get clarity of like, I keep pinning all these things. Like, what's the energy behind what I'm pinning? So you could use it as like a tool. But the other thing I was thinking is more of like the shadow piece too. For example, let's say somebody has all these pictures of like loving couples, and they're just looking at their vision board of love and loving couples. And one, they're not expanded, but let's say they are expanded, but then they're not looking at their own shadow of their own love avoidance or attachment wounds, or, if they're not doing any of the unblocking there, then you're just going to hit a wall over and over and over again too.
Yeah, it's so interesting with the vision board piece. With material items, similar to like how you have people, you're saying on ChatGPT that are showing you examples of that. I notice if it, like, let's say I'm manifesting a very specific chair or this kind of style of chair. If I search it on Pinterest or I look at it on a website, then it starts to populate. On my Instagram, I'll get an ad for it, and then I'll see the influencer that has it in their home. Like, that is kind of helping in a weird way because it's helping to bring it all over the place. Your cognitive bias is starting to notice, wow, there's actually an abundance of this chair. I'm seeing this chair everywhere. Like, if that person can get it and that person can get it, I can get it. But like Janelle's saying, if it's this random couple that you don't know anything about their life, they just have this romantic moment. Okay, what does that mean for me? And what is preventing me from experiencing that sort of romance? Like, am I even open to that? What are my limiting beliefs and fears beneath that? The other thing with the visual aspect too is use it as your springboard for the sensation and the feeling you want to get from your manifestation versus necessarily a very literal representation of like that exact thing. So like when I was manifesting my home, I had some boards that were specific and was doing the unblocking and taking aligned action and all of that. And I was like, you know what? Actually, I kind of want to throw all of this out because I'm starting to get stuck on like a very specific way it needs to look. And it's kind of tripping me up. I want to be in more surrender. It's making me dog paddle to get this vision. I'd rather just lay that down and be open to whatever I truly want and how I want it to feel. And so I started just pulling in images that were exactly what I wrote on my manifestation list of how I wanted to feel. What's an image that feels like vastness and openness? Okay, this. What's an image that has sunlight dancing in through an angle? Okay, this. And it wasn't that I wanted to replicate those exact images. They were placeholders for the sensation I was hoping to feel in the new place. And I would say actually, once I made that new board, when I started to actually take aligned action and go see places and have expansion, I was getting closer and closer and closer to that sensation than I was had I just been like, it has to be this exact type of framework too.
And what I love in that, it's a little bit more advanced. Like when you're actually in the pathway and doing our work, you accomplished a few things with that. Like you're talking about the chair is such a good example where it's like, you don't need a ton of expansion on that chair. Mm-hmm. And then like the beauty of AI and ads, like it started to populate. So you started expanding. You're like, oh, it's everywhere. Anyone has it. I can have it, so that's like the expansion piece. And then like that episode we did, Why You're Not Manifesting, also a really good follow-up episode. Yeah. You'll gain so much clarity. But what I love about that too, and this is like such a specific manifestation energetic, it's nuanced, it's a little bit more advanced, but essentially you went from just that specific thing, it has to be this is the type, this is the place, and you were able to zoom out of that. That was your springboard, like you said. You were able to zoom out of that. And then in fact, you were starting to expand your mind through these touch points of what you wanted. So you were showing your mind the specific expansion that it didn't know all the way that it needed. There was something you were doing with that was so energetically different than just making a vision board. Yeah. And so the big piece of it is you were getting super authentic with your authentic aligned wants and needs. Mm-hmm. That's another advanced concept in this work that is the root of everything to manifest, literally the root of everything. So you were getting clear on that. And then you were also like expanding yourself through seeing these more authentic angles of what you wanted and then opening up to allow it to present in a better way. So it's just, there's a lot to unpack there of what made that more effective in manifestation than just creating that specific vision board, which again is a beautiful thing in curation. But it's just when you're manifesting, there's a little bit deeper of authenticity of hitting the right notes. And so something that I see a lot And like old superstitious manifestation that's coming up again. It's just always like new waves of it coming around, whether it's TikTok or the old teachers of it that we're all aware of. When they're talking about the vision board, they're really talking about feeling it, feeling like you have it and it's yours. And it's just not the most effective angle in. And so that's like, I guess what I'm trying to reach with a little bit of clarity here. Your angle in was actually through authenticity and through expansion and also through letting go of it having to be the specific thing that you were feeling. So I just want to make those like clarifications for people as you're starting to tune in to the energy that actually helps you manifest.
100% too, because I think there's one version of a vision board where those images can feel really limiting. They can actually feel more distant from what you're actually calling in versus if it is a loose representation of an authentic feeling you want to have around it, that is going to be more effective because you can go find expanders who have that authentic feeling. You can go unblock around, okay, well, how do I allow myself to lean into this? Do I feel deserving of this? Where is my self-worth compared to this? You know, I can take aligned action that connects me with it. Like it's very tangible versus the one vision board. And you're like, I have to manifest this very specific item or this very specific moment. Yeah, but are you keeping yourself in a box when what you could want is so much bigger and more vast than even that specific piece? Since moving into my mid-30s, I've been thinking a lot about longevity. How do I keep my body as healthy as possible as I get older? And one supplement I've been obsessed with for this is Fatty 15. It is the pure form of C15, an essential longevity-boosting nutrient that scientists have discovered as the longevity nutrient. It's the first essential fatty acid discovered in over 90 years, and it can be more effective than just your omega-3s and omega-6s. The founder, Dr. Steffi Van Watson, discovered C15 while studying aging of dolphins. She saw that in dolphins that lived longer, were healthier, had better cognitive function, less brain degenerative diseases, better heart health, lung health, all had higher levels of C15. And when they started studying C15 on a deeper level, they found that it was actually a geroprotector, which means it slows down biological aging. It addresses 6 hallmarks of aging, including boosting mitochondrial health, lowering inflammation, and reducing oxidative stress. It supports healthy liver function, strong and healthy red blood cells, healthy cholesterol levels, and healthy glucose handling. 1 in 3 people are deficient in C15, which is so important because when our cells don't have enough C15, we age faster. I love that by taking this powerhouse of a supplement, I'm investing not only in my health now, but my health in the future. And Fatty 15 is on a mission to optimize your C15 levels to help you live longer and healthier. You can get an additional 15% off their 90-day subscription starter kit by going to fatty15.com/TBM and use code TBM at checkout. Or you can go in the link in our show notes. Again, that's fatty15.com/TBM for 15% off.
Janelle, what do you think about all of that through a therapeutic lens?
I mean, to me, it's like just pure vision board only. Like, honestly, my immediate thought is just more spiritual bypassing. To me, it's just a little bit of a tool. You articulated it beautifully. You're just missing all these other really, really important pieces. I imagine if somebody is an old school, I'm going to call it old school manifestation and just vision board only, I can imagine that there's some point that they're just going to get so discouraged and so frustrated and all of their own negative beliefs come up. And I'm like, that's the stuff you got to work with. That's all of the work right there, you know, that your vision board is just to be inspiration.
There's also an element too of, and we had talked about this earlier, Janelle, but having this vision, but not actually taking the action. You can kind of stay in this daydream of like, wow, these visuals are so pretty, or this, I'm going to do this meditation to just connect with the future version of my reality. And it'll ultimately pull me there just because I'm picturing it day in and day out. And it's like that alone is not just going to draw you there. Like you have to face all the other things, and you have to actually take action to move from your current circumstance to the version of you that's going to be in that new future self. Talk a little bit about that too.
This is interesting. Just one thing I feel like I've seen is that I usually see people in one of two camps. Either they are very kind of airy, dreamer, vision board, and they like the more unblocking part too. They can do unblocking, but hustle is the wrong word, but there's not aligned action happening. And there's different fears and different little things that they have to do to like tangibly show up. Or, so there's that camp, or there's another camp of somebody that is just overdoing the work, scrambling and trying to make things happen. And ultimately there's like they're trying to control it, doing way too much aligned action, and they're unblocking, but they're not. There's also another piece where they kind of have to sit back and surrender. I've seen both sides, but it's interesting on the side of the person that isn't doing the aligned action. I think we've talked about this book before in a podcast, but around age 2 or 3, there's this developmental stage of competency of, I can do this. I do this by myself. It's such a critical developmental piece. And when someone doesn't get to complete that developmental piece, or maybe they've had a very controlling parent, or a parent that's like, well, I'll just do it for you, or I'll just do it for you, they never get the self-worth and that kind of click in the brain of like, oh, I can make stuff happen for myself. I can do things for myself. And so they kind of can sit back with a little bit of like a passive victim and be, as an adult, frustrated of like, oh, well, I'm vision boarding and I'm wanting this to happen and my heart's open, but they're not stepping into their own competency. And so I think that if somebody has that wound, I would say go back to the inner child DI 2-3 and reprogram that for yourself of completing things, and then do it different developmental stages of completing and whatever. And you might now as an adult need to, something that you're putting off or procrastinating, something there where it's like you can kind of titrate to build that up in your system of, I am deeply competent.
I love this. If you guys go into the inner child workshop, that is where you're going to have those developmental stages. You're really focusing on that, and you can reprogram with your magnetic mom or dad or parent. And then you can reinforce it with our inner child DI as just like a general touch point. But this is huge, especially for people who are like, I know what I need to do, but I'm just not taking the action. This is great.
I agree.
I'm in the other camp where even I'm like my new office that took me 8 or 9 months to manifest and went through the ringer, but I was the opposite side of like, I was hyper searching on, for new offices, and I was constantly doing, and there was at some point where I was just like, my negative belief for this office was I can't get what I want. And I was doing everything, as an oldest child and all of that. I'm like, I'm confident I can make it happen. And then just hit wall after wall after wall. And then at some point I was like, fuck it. Like, I'm just gonna, you know what? I just gotta and had to face a lot of fears. And then boom, it was like literally better than I could ever imagined.
So you went through a magic dark, really, once you let go.
Oh, 100%. Yeah.
Because terminology like magic dark is a really specific phase you enter into when you're doing this type of manifestation work. And that's usually where the literal magic happens. It's called magic dark, not just dark, for a reason.
I mean, if you guys are listening to this, like really hearing, and you're coming from different manifestation exercises out there, trying to hack it in like all these quick ways, even looking at the path Janelle just laid out, are you someone that stays in that daydream with your visualizations or just in the positive, and you aren't really going deeper, you aren't addressing those other things, or you aren't really taking action? That is why the work is so much more than just these kind of quick surface level exercises. It's actually a true spiritual, emotional, physical transformation when you're manifesting. We're manifesting all the time. It's just whether we're in the driver's seat of those manifestations. And then for the people on the other side who are more similar to Janelle, and it sounds like Lacy and I too, where we're like, okay, we're just going to like make this happen. We're going to take the line action. We're going to unblock. We're going to do the things. There will become a moment where you do have to surrender. And I went through a similar thing with that with my house too, where the surrender was more so facing the fear of what it meant to not have it come through or have it come through in the timeline that I desire. Could I let go of that attachment? And once I was able to do that with those unblocking tools, it came through so quickly.
I have one of those happening right now, manifestations. But I had that wall yesterday where it was like, wow, this just isn't going to happen. Wow, that's crazy. So I love hearing this expansion from both of you. I have to think about what my next steps are to let go and really deal with the things coming up, the blocks that are coming up that are making me go, wow, this is never going to happen.
Totally.
Honestly, sit with it. That worst case scenario DI is huge. Each time I've done it, there's usually one baseline fear, but then there's like little microscopic fears that like kind of go off of it. And if you can just like go through them and web them out, I was like, oh, okay. I know for a fact even if it doesn't look like this thing I'm chasing, I know without a doubt I'm going to get my needs met in this way. Something shifted after that DI where I was like, I just know.
I need to revisit. It's time. It's calling.
So good. Well, okay. And that brings us to another one of these concepts that people do, which is like, write it as if it's already happened. You can't fake that. If I would have wrote that I manifested my dream home when I was on the other side of that attachment, when I was on the other side of those fears, it would have been like same with the positive affirmations. I'd be like, I don't believe that because I have to control it, or I have to put these things in order, or I have to do this. I just don't believe that it's just going to show up on my doorstep. It wasn't until I put the practice at work, till I actually started moving forward. I saw the expansion. I did the unblocking. I faced my fears. I let go of that attachment to it. And then boom, then I could say like, oh, now I know for a fact it'll come through. But I had to arrive there. You can't just fake that position too.
And you can, but it won't come in the timeline that you want. So like a great example of that is like young acting, the whole Jim Carrey, write the check, right? Write the check for the $1 million or the whatever. I did it. I've made it, I have that now, but certainly not in the way that I was requesting it and the timeline that I was requesting it and the tools that I was using to get it. Most of it came through expansion. So really meeting expanders who had that and who were successful in that, not even in the same lane. I had to get a ton of fragment expanders because I come from such a lack mentality. And then also finding my authentic vocation and purpose and following that it wasn't going to come through acting. You can write that, you can, just like, Jessica did, but I guess what we're getting at is like a step-by-step process that actually yields the results you want quickly. That's all it comes down to. A lot of these things out there aren't wrong. They're just too liminal and gray without any actual energetic movement beneath them in the direction you need, in the quickness that you're desiring. So it's like what we created here was the step-by-step that's going to give that. It's like a car. It's instead of sailing by boat that takes a really long time, all these beautiful practices and tools that are surface level helpful, we created a car, a vehicle that gets you, or a train even, a fast track train that's getting you from A to Z based on how you utilize, and integrate the tools to get there. So that's the thing I want to say about a lot of the stuff that exists. It's not outlandish. It's just, it takes a long time and may not yield the results you want.
You've heard us talk about our Pathway membership, but what actually is it? It is an all-access membership where you can get every single workshop that we've ever created, all of our deep imaginings, which are our reprogramming audios, to help you manifest. You can access it on the desktop or in the TBM app on your phone directly. We, of course, have our foundational workshops, such as our How to Manifest workshop, which takes you step by step through this neural manifestation process to actually unblock, expand, and take aligned action to connect with your manifestations. Our How to Be Magnetic workshop, our Inner Child and Shadow workshops. And then, of course, we have a workshop if you are in a rut, if you're in a rock bottom, if you're in an up level, perhaps you need to set boundaries. Maybe you want to focus specifically on the block of money or love. It is all in there. And then twice a year as a community, we gather for our challenges. Our challenges are one of the most effective parts of the process because you get accountability. It is really a handheld experience in how to work through whatever the theme of that year's challenge is. And now to my absolute favorite part of our membership, which I think in and of itself would be worth the entire weight of the membership if we just had this alone, our Deep Imagining library. This library encompasses over 60 neural reprogramming audio tracks. They're self-hypnosis tracks that will really support you in any step of this journey. If you're needing calming, nervous system regulation, unblocking with a specific test or trigger, going through a difficult time, processing a big emotion, or maybe you just want reinforcing, how to reinforce those neural pathways of confidence, abundance, self-worth, deservingness, and connection with your dream life. And not only that, if you go to the app, we just launched Deep Imagining playlists where we're grouping different themes of DIs together. So no matter what you're going through, you have something for you. And we're constantly dropping new playlists as well as brand new Deep Imaginings. And if you need more support in your process, you can go to our brand new video series, Channelings with Lacy, where she touches on the exact energetics that are going on right now in manifestation and how it may apply to your life. So obviously, I am a huge fan of this membership. The peace of mind I get from being able to have all the tools I need at my disposal, no matter where I'm at with my life, if shit's hitting the fan, if I'm feeling dysregulated, if I'm needing to come back to my center, if I'm needing to brainstorm or daydream or connect with what my vision for my future is, every single tool is in there to support me. And don't just take my word for it. We have thousands of testimonials of people who have had incredible success stories with these tools. So take the guesswork out of your manifestation process and get real tools that are going to give you real results. For podcast listeners only, you can use code EXPANDED, all caps EXPANDED, for 20% off your first month of the pathway. Join now and have your best year yet. And then for someone brand new who's listening in for the first time, like to deduce those tools, you kind of talked about at the beginning, like expanders is 1/3 of it. For the TBM process, what are those pillars that need to be in place that we have the actionable tools behind it and the pathway membership to help guide them through?
I'll let you take that, Jessica, because you're so good at distilling.
Okay. We look at it like the triangle. We have unblocking, expansion, and aligned action. All three of them root down to your subconscious self-worth. What does your subconscious believe is possible for you? What are the limiting beliefs in the way of believing it's possible for you? And are you actually interacting with the world as if you believed it was possible for you? So that's why those three pillars happening simultaneously are so key. Unblock, expand, take aligned action. Unblocking is exactly what Janelle was saying. Bring up all the stuff that's in the way. All the fears, all the attunement you didn't get as a child, all the scarcity mindset. What are the things that are popping up that are preventing you from a place of a safety mechanism? They're trying to keep you in the familiar. They're trying to keep you safe. But what are those things popping up that you need to address, that you need to look at, you need to heal, you need to integrate on a deeper level? Expansion. And then really expanding your subconscious. When you can see to believe, Dr. Tara shared the Roger Bannister example of the 4-minute mile. There was no one who had broke that 4-minute mile marker until Roger Bannister did. And once he did, the amount of people that started running the 4-minute mile and under was more and more and more, because they saw to believe, wow, if that person can do it, I can do it. I can push my body. The limitations I thought I have, I don't have. They're literally showing you a roadmap for what's possible for you. Especially if you have people that you are envious of or jealous of, boom, there's your expanders. Because even though they might be frustrating or annoying to look at, whenever anyone is like, oh, I'm so jealous of them doing that, I'm like, this is a great thing. You should be so excited when these people pop up in your life because they're popping up to show you specifically that it's possible for you. So get excited. And then the aligned action. That's where the rubber meets the road. And if you're hiding in the unblocking and the daydreaming and the thinking about, but you're not taking any action, you still haven't really unblocked because you have to step through fear in order to really start changing those neural pathways. You can reprogram them in your head, but then does your body actually feel safe in the real world to react from that way? Janelle, you can probably say more on this, but I think the aligned action piece, especially if you have done the other two pieces of it, is like the most exciting part because you get to face your fears. And those fears might be as simple as I have to, reach out and put myself out there for a job, or I have to post on social media, or I have to finally have that hard conversation with that toxic person in my life and cut them out. They are the scary things, but they are often the things that are going to really move the needle in your life because you're deciding on a physical plane level, I'm not fucking settling. Like I've already done all the inner work. I'm not settling anymore. And that is the reflection of your actions. So Janelle, I want to get your thoughts on that too.
Yeah, this is another angle of the aligned action piece is that when the unblocking's there, the aligned action should be pretty easy. If we're like, okay, why do I have so much resistance in this and this? Maybe honestly, your nervous system goes into a freeze when it thinks about completing XYZ, or maybe there's a true trauma belief of, well, I can't do that because I'm not, whatever the negative belief is. So there is an absolute huge competency piece that really needs to be highlighted. And also for some people that maybe they're like, no, I can get things going, but with this thing, I'm really having a hard time taking aligned action. That's what I would get curious about to see, okay, what's happening with the specific piece there? Because I would say once that's unblocked, you should just be able, honestly, to just kind of go on your way.
So good. And if you need help with any of this stuff, you want to learn the tools more in depth, our Pathway membership is the spot to go. It's all encompassing, has everything you can need and use for all of these steps and more, really connecting with expanders, finding like-minded people. The other thing with the community aspect is I've also noticed how much faster my manifestations come through when the mindset of the people I surround myself is like similar. If they have a more open mindset, they have more abundant mindset, they aren't really projecting their limiting beliefs onto me or what's possible for me, I feel like it can move so much more rapidly when there's that encouragement of like, yeah, of course you can do that. That's what you're interested in. Amazing. Like go launch that or go do that or go, book that trip, whatever it is. When I have those people around me, I feel like things move so much faster because I know it's like helping reinforce that neural pathway too.
Yeah, like when I was doing that channeling for 2025, I think things are going to become really rapid this year. I think it's already happening, especially with AI, which is undeniable. It's going to be a massive part of our life in the future. It's going to really be a front runner. But what AI is doing at this moment, again, for good or for bad, it's speeding things up, right? You don't have to do the Googling you used to have to do. You're not having to work with the branding and the graphic, it's just speeding things up. And I think the same thing is true for how fast we're going to expand. So even in this conversation, you two just expanded me instantly, right away. Oh, this will happen for me. I'm just getting channeling of like what I need to be unblocking in this moment. That's just what you're saying, Jessica. Like the more you can surround yourself around people that are flowy, easy, inspiring, within your just internal family system or friendships or whatever, bam, bam, you're just going to start expanding each other so much more quickly because we're moving into a world where things are just speeding up. You can't help it. If you're on social media or AI, you just cannot help it. So it's like, make those work for you, be open to all of that happening quickly.
That's why I love when we do in-person meetups, whether it's like the speaking tour, we do walks like with our community or people host magnetic meetups in their town. Like when I connect with other TBMers who already are adopting this mindset, right? They already see the world as like, I know it's possible for me. I'm just moving the things out of the way so I can connect with it. There is something so powerful that happens just by talking to like-minded people who are like, oh, you had that test? Okay, cool. Don't settle, girl. Like, this is what you can do. Or even like, wow, this is really what I'm feeling. Yeah, that makes total sense why that would connect to this thing. Like you got, like it's just that extra layer of support and encouragement that, especially if you didn't get that growing up or didn't have that, it's so refreshing to be around like such a large group of people that see the potential in yourself, themselves, the future, all of the things.
Agreed. Embrace it.
Yes.
Yeah.
So good. Well, thank you guys. I hope this is helpful and illuminating, even for our members who have been with us forever. I feel like there's going to unlock a few new insights in this one as well.
It just did for me, and I created the work. So, like, be open. Yeah.
Thanks, guys.
Yeah,
Thank you both very much.
Thank you both. Yeah.
I hope you guys enjoyed that episode today. It's one that you can really come back to when you're ever feeling stuck in your process or needing a new reframe on this manifestation protocol. A couple of deep imaginings that you can jump into now. You're already in the hypnotic state from listening to something. Maybe you're in your car, you're walking, you're laying down, you're doing chores, whatever it is. It's now the perfect time to pop in a deep imagining and do some of that reprogramming work. So if you want to use any of the DIs that we mentioned in the episode today, if you go into our inner child workshop and you go under the 7th lesson called competence, that is going to be the deep imagining you're going to utilize to integrate the feeling of being competent to complete things, to work through things, to navigate things. So if you're one of those people that's having difficulty taking that action, you're stuck in the dreaming, that competence DI is going to be huge. You can also do the freeze or fawn DI to help energize yourself to take that aligned action. Or if you're stuck in the unblocking phase where you have the self-doubt, the limiting beliefs, any confusion of what might be in the way of what's possible for you, I would utilize the inner child DI, the blocks DI, or the driver's seat DI to really get in touch with the part of you that doesn't feel safe to integrate that next version of self. And then if you are looking for more expansion, I would check out our expanders DI. You actually can sit down and visualize an entire scene where those expanders come in, sit with you, give you feedback, chat with you, and even just allow your mind to sift through your subconscious and notice if you've encountered any expanders recently. I know I personally did the monthly check-in DI this week to check out where I needed support in all 3 of those areas, and that is also a great one for your practice. Okay, happy manifesting.